Every time it gets dark, this man sprays alcohol on his doorstep. The first thing he does upon returning home is clean his dog. As soon as he sees the sun is about to set, he immediately closes the doors and windows with special steel plates. But even without a single light in the house, he doesn't feel safe. He huddles in his closet with his rifle clutched to his chest, his dog clinging to his chest. Only then does he find peace. In fact, the man has put in such tight security because as soon as night falls, the outside world ceases to be human. Hordes of terrifying zombies roam the streets, wreaking havoc. Because about 5 years ago, in 2012, a virus wreaked havoc. This virus killed 90% of humans, while 9% turned into zombies. These zombies are afraid of sunlight, come out only at night, and their sense of smell is extremely strong. Meanwhile, the main character of our story, Will, has survived this virus. He belongs to the less than 1% of people worldwide who have a strong antibody. Will, driving his Ford Mustang, speeds through the deserted streets of New York. He's chasing a deer through the city center. In a world where he's the only survivor, food has become the most basic and most essential need. But just as he's about to hunt, a lioness suddenly pounces and surrounds the deer before he can even begin. Seeing the prey snatched away, Will considers killing the lioness. Just then, a lion and a cub emerge. Seeing them, Will remembers his dead family. He doesn't shoot because he knows that lions maintain the balance of nature. Before venturing out in search of survivors, he goes to his underground medical room to see if the treatment has restored the mutant mice to normal. But he still sees no difference. Actually, Will is a brilliant scientist. He has developed gene therapy based on a virus vaccine. Just when he thought today would be a disappointing day, he noticed that a mutant rat no longer had the strength to attack. This led him to believe that the rat was slowly returning to normal. If this experiment on the rat is successful, he could even turn these zombies back into normal humans. During the day, Will leaves home every morning at exactly 8 a.m. to search for survivors and zombie hideouts. Every day, he drives to the video store, changes stares, and inquires about the well-being of the mannequins already placed there. Seeing this, one cannot even imagine how lonely a person can be that they have to make friends with mannequins. He marks every place he visits on a map and collects food and essential supplies at those places. Every day at exactly 12 noon, he calls on the radio hoping for a miracle. 3 years pass and he never gets a response. To calm his loneliness, Will goes to the Enterprise aircraft carrier that afternoon and plays golf while standing on a plane. But then, his dog notices something strange. There's movement somewhere in the distance. Will immediately picks up his rifle, looks through the scope, and realizes it's a deer. Without delay, he takes the dog and sets out to hunt. But then a tragic incident occurs. The deer, while running around, accidentally gets trapped in a closed space and, frightened, runs into a building. Perhaps the dog hadn't seen any meat in a while. Undeterred, he too follows it into the building. Will tries to stop it. Will panics, but for the sake of his dog, he has to go inside. It was completely dark inside. Nothing was visible. Even though I turned the video brightness up to full, the atmosphere still felt terrifying and terrifying. At this moment, Will was terrified. Even a mirror could scare him. As he went upstairs to look for his dog, he suddenly heard a painful scream. Worried that something bad had happened to his dog, he consoled himself and moved on. Following the bloodstains on the stairs, he saw the severed head of an animal around a bend. To his relief, he realized it was a moose that had just been killed. But the fear on the moose's face before it died was clearly visible. Seeing this, Bill drew his gun and looked around. Then he saw another terrifying sight. In no time, a group of zombies was less than 5 meters away from him. Will had to muster up the courage to go inside for his dog. Finally, he finds his German Shepherd under a table, looking extremely frightened. Just as he's about to reach out and call out to the dog's gaze is fixed directly behind Will's back. Will senses something's wrong. As he looks back, a terrifying scene unfolds. Will runs frantically outside with his dog, but they're eventually caught by zombies. Luckily, Bill jumps out of the black window just in time, and as the sunlight hits him, the zombie immediately falls wounded to the ground. The experience just now is good. Will was immediately frightened, but it also led to his escape. Will set a trap outside to experiment on zombies. He took out a vial of his own blood and placed it at the door of the building while he hid outside. Indeed, within just 2 minutes and 30 seconds, a zombie was caught in the trap. And as soon as the trap was activated, a living zombie was forcibly pulled out. But then suddenly, a zombie with a scary face emerged with an angry roar, as if it wanted to eat Will alive immediately. He himself could not understand why this zombie was so angry. After returning home, Will continued experimenting on the zombies. He had no idea that the female zombie who had just roared was actually the wife of the Zombie King. Because of Will's capture, a full-blown war broke out between zombies and humans. He was the only living person in town, but to his surprise, he saw a mannequin's head suddenly move. Even more terrifying, no one could understand how this mannequin, which should have been at the video store's door, suddenly appeared several kilometers away. Just then, Bill pulled out his gun and aimed it at the mannequin, thinking someone had placed it there so they could talk to Bill. But he didn't see anyone nearby because it was actually a trap set by the Zombie King for revenge for capturing his wife. When Will approaches the mannequin and bends down to look at the water beneath it, the trap set by the Zombie King suddenly activates, leaving Bill suspended in midair. The blow to Will's head knocks him unconscious. As the sun is about to set, Bill wakes up to his alarm clock. As the sunlight fades, terrifying zombies emerge. Bill pulls a knife from his waistband and in a panic cuts the rope tied to his legs. But as he falls to the ground, the knife plunges straight into his soul. This only worsens the situation as the last rays of the setting sun disappear. The next moment, Will realizes something is wrong. Terrifying sounds begin to come from the dark building in front. Just then, the Zombie King appears and releases 3 ferocious hunting dogs, but they are unable to reach him because of the remaining sunlight. But as the sun sets a few minutes later, the zombie hunting dogs go into a frenzy and attack. At this moment, our main character's life is wounded. The only ray of hope between his life and death is his German Shepherd, who has accompanied him through this apocalypse. This German Shepherd is his only companion, his reason for living. He fears his German Shepherd might die. Come on, there was a pistol in the car. Will crawled towards the car, but as the last rays of the sun began to fade, the attack of the hunting dogs intensified. He had little time. Enduring the pain, he got up and moved on his toes, but after a few steps, he collapsed to the ground again. Just then, the ferocious zombie dogs pounced on him, but Will blocked their attack with bullets from his gun. But just then, another zombie dog pounced on him. The ferocious dog's sharp teeth were about to tear his cheek apart when the German Shepherd arrived just in time to save him. But the worst was yet to come. The German Shepherd had been bitten by another dog in a recent fight. This devastated Will, because only Will had the antibodies, not the German Shepherd. After returning home, Will immediately injected himself with antiviral medication. He picked him up and hoped the German Shepherd would recover. He smiled, comforting himself that his beloved companion would be fine. Suddenly, the hair on the German Shepherd's body began to fall out. When he lifted the dog's eyelids, he saw signs of illness beginning to appear in the corners of his eyes, and life-threatening symptoms appeared in his mouth. Will's heart broke, but reality forced him to make a painful decision, and unwillingly, Will strangled his love with his strong hands, the love that had supported him through countless lonely, dark nights. He was completely devastated, but at the same time, Will also discovered a strange problem. When a person infected with the virus becomes a zombie, they lose their minds. But how could they still set a trap exactly like a human? But when he looked at the seat next to him, there was no sign of Sam. In that moment, Will could take it no longer. So that very night, he drove his car straight to the harbor and without thinking, started attacking the zombies. Although the zombies couldn't do anything to him because he was in the car, they kept coming. They completely surrounded the car and started breaking the glass. Then some zombies climbed on the lamp and dropped it directly on the car. Will got trapped in the car. He saw the crowd coming towards him, so he quickly tried to get out of the car. But then more zombies arrived. Then the leader of the zombies ordered them to attack him. Before Will could react, the impact sent the car careening sideways, and the monster landed right in front of Will. Now Will was like a deer caught in a trap. Death was approaching him every moment. But just then, a bright light appeared, as if a human being was approaching him. Finally, he couldn't bear it anymore and fainted. When he woke up, he found himself lying in his house, his leg wound bandaged. He saw a woman with a child beside him. It had been 3 years since Will had seen a human. He didn't know how to talk to people. Then the woman began to introduce herself. Anna told Will that she had heard about Will on the radio. She had come to New York with the child and waited all day, but Will hadn't come. She was planning to go to Vermont because it was a safe place for humans. Hearing this, Will's face turned angry. He told Anna that there was no safe place here. All of America has been devastated. Anna wanted to argue with Will, but Will yelled at her. He always believed he was the only survivor on Earth. This put immense mental pressure on him. In despair, Will relied entirely on science and logic and focused entirely on finding a cure for the virus. His entire life and hopes were predicated on this single goal. But Anna's news suddenly changed his thinking completely. She told him that there were other survivors somewhere. This meant that Will's long years of loneliness and hard work had perhaps not been in vain, as now he had a living person standing before him. Will struggled with his thoughts and emotions in his room for a long time. Finally, he accepted reality and left. Anna persuaded Will to go with her to quarantine zone, but Will flatly refused, saying he would never leave. Anna then arrived at Will's lab. When she saw the female zombie lying in the snow, she couldn't believe her eyes and asked Will if he could really cure this zombie. Anna then looked at the pictures of hundreds of zombies on the wall. Will had used them as lab rats to create a vaccine. As the sunlight began to fade, Will immediately closed all the doors and windows. Anna then tried to persuade Will to go to the quarantine zone, but before Will could respond, he heard a loud commotion outside. When he opened the small window and looked, he saw a large crowd of zombies heading towards his house. Will couldn't believe the sight before his eyes. He had always tried his best to hide his scent, but still, in a large crowd, the zombies had discovered his whereabouts. They started moving towards them like crazy monsters. When the man inquired carefully, he learned that the woman had brought him home safely yesterday when she'd rescued him, but hadn't taken any precautions afterward. However, now was no time to blame her. Will immediately turned on all the bright lights in the vicinity. But surprisingly, the zombies, who were usually afraid of light, had suddenly become very clever this time. After destroying all the street lights, they began moving rapidly towards the man. Terrified, Will immediately activated another security system and activated all the nearby bombs at once. When Will looked again, he found that all the zombies had been killed in the bomb blasts. But as he called out for Anna, there was no response. Then he went upstairs to look for her. At that very moment, a zombie attacked him. It grabbed him tightly and threw him straight from the ground onto a table. Helpless Will became the victim of brutality. Just as the zombie thinks Will is dead, he doesn't realize he was pretending all along. He seizes the opportunity and picks up a screwdriver and stabs the zombie. But the blow doesn't harm him. The zombie picks him up and throws him down. As the zombie king angrily roars at him, Will quickly grabs a nearby rifle. But the zombie runs away, as if aware of how dangerous human weapons are. Will takes aim here and there, but the zombie hides behind a wall, so Will immediately aims at a gas cylinder and fires. The explosion knocks the zombie straight out, but the zombie doesn't seem to be hurt much. He then climbs the stairs and disappears. When Will chases after him, he finds that Will has escaped by jumping out of a window. Will quickly goes inside the house to find the woman, but he sees that there's another zombie in the room, and the woman and child are hiding under the cupboard in fear. Will signals them not to make any noise. He was preparing to kill the zombie with his pistol, but then the zombie saw them. To prevent them from getting hurt, Will mustered up the courage to enter inside. Then he opened fire on it, but suddenly a loud noise was heard from outside. When Will opened the door, the zombie king was roaring towards him. In fact, he had just gone to call more people. What's even more frightening is that their attack was just breaking out. The explosion wasn't a fluke, but a well-planned one. When Will saw the zombie leader outside the window, he felt uneasy because the zombies didn't just look like animals, they also had brains. The three quickly ran to the basement. Then Will closed the mantle door tightly, and Anna took the baby and hid in the cellar. But then she saw a miraculous sight and immediately called Will. In fact, the vaccine Will had created was working, and the zombie king's wife was slowly turning into a human. But then the zombies broke in. Then Will quickly closed the glass door. Will wanted to tell these zombies that he could turn them all back into humans, but in the eyes of the zombies, Will himself was a terrifying zombie, as he not only periodically captures and experiments on their comrades, but this time he even kidnapped the zombie king's wife. This enraged the entire army of zombies. As the zombie king repeatedly pounded on the glass door, the door slowly crumbled. It was then that Will realized his predicament. As he was unconsciously looking around, his eyes fell on the butterfly mark on the woman's neck. The moment he saw the butterfly, he felt as if he understood everything. He immediately grabbed a container and extracted the serum from the zombie king's wife's body, as her blood was like a vaccine, meaning it could create antibodies. So he extracted the serum and sent the woman and child safely to the underground passage, and after handing the serum to the woman, he closed the gate. Just then, the zombie king shattered the glass. At that very moment, Bill pulled the pin on the grenade and ran straight into the horde of zombies. And that's where this great movie ends. By the way, tell me how you liked this movie. If you did, share it with your friends and like the video and subscribe to the channel, okay? Let's see you.